September 26, 1983. 12 minutes past midnight, Moscow time. A Soviet military bunker, buried underground, 85 kilometers south of Moscow. One man, one console, one screen. The screen reads, "Launch detected." Not a drill, not a test. One confirmed United States intercontinental ballistic missile, inbound, heading for Soviet territory. Then a second alert, then a third, then a fourth, then a fifth. 5 American nuclear missiles, confirmed, launched. 12 minutes to impact. Protocol is absolute. Report the launch immediately to Soviet High Command. They will retaliate within minutes. Hundreds of Soviet warheads will leave their silos. America will detect the retaliation. America will launch everything it has. Within 40 minutes, it is over. Not a war, an extinction event. The man at the console has 4 minutes to decide. His name is Lieutenant Colonel Stanislav Yevgrafovich Petrov. And what he does next will save every single person alive on Earth tonight. If you want the full declassified story of the night one Soviet officer stood alone between humanity and nuclear annihilation, hit that like button and subscribe to History Unclassified. Every fact in this story is real. Every number is verified. The man at the center of it received no medal, no promotion, no public recognition for 15 years. The Soviet government buried this story in a classified file and hoped it would stay there. It didn't. To understand what Stanislav Petrov did on September 26, 1983, you first need to understand where he was sitting and what that place was built to do. Serpukhov 15, a classified Soviet military installation 85 kilometers south of Moscow. Officially, it does not exist. No public maps, no road signs, no acknowledgement of any kind. Inside that installation, the command and monitoring center for a system called OKO. OKO means eye in Russian. A network of Soviet satellites in high elliptical orbit positioned to stare down at the continental United States around the clock. Their singular purpose: detect the infrared heat signature of a ballistic missile launch the instant it leaves American soil, and transmit that data to Serpukhov 15 fast enough for the Soviet High Command to order a retaliatory strike before the incoming warheads landed. The OKO system had been operational since 1972. By 1983, it was the most advanced space-based nuclear early warning network the Soviet Union had ever built. And on the night of September 26th, Stanislav Petrov was its duty officer. Petrov is 44 years old, rank Lieutenant Colonel, role duty officer, OKO early warning system, Serpukhov 15. He is not a general, not a political decision-maker, not a member of the Soviet inner circle. He is a career military systems engineer who understands the OKO network at a technical level most of his superiors do not. He knows its capabilities. He also knows its weaknesses. That second piece of knowledge is the only reason a world is still here. To understand the full weight of what Petrov faced that night, you need to understand what September 1983 actually felt like inside the Soviet military establishment. Because it was the most dangerous moment in the Cold War since the Cuban Missile Crisis. And unlike October 1962, most of the world had no idea. Ronald Reagan has been President of the United States for 2 years and 8 months. His administration's posture toward the Soviet Union is harder, more aggressive, and more confrontational than anything since the early Cold War. In March 1983, exactly 6 months before this night, Reagan delivers a nationally televised address. He calls the Soviet Union an evil empire. 2 words. In Moscow, those 2 words are not received as political theater. They are received as a statement of intent. The same month, March 1983, Reagan announces the Strategic Defense Initiative, SDI, immediately nicknamed Star Wars by the Western press, a proposed space-based missile defense shield designed to intercept and destroy Soviet ballistic missiles in flight before they reach American territory. The Soviet military's classified internal assessment is completed within weeks. The conclusion is stark. If SDI becomes operational, Soviet nuclear deterrence is finished. America could launch a first strike, absorb whatever survived the Soviet retaliation behind the shield, and win a nuclear war. From Moscow's perspective, SDI is not a defensive system. It is the final piece of an American first strike capability. Then, 3 weeks before the night in question, something happens that pushes Soviet-American relations past breaking point entirely. September 1st, 1983, Korean Airlines Flight 007, a Boeing 747, 269 passengers and crew, shot down by a Soviet Su-15 interceptor aircraft over the Sea of Japan. All 269 people aboard are killed. The aircraft had strayed into Soviet airspace over Sakhalin Island, likely due to a navigation error. The Soviet military tracked it for 2 hours and 26 minutes before authorizing the shootdown. Reagan addresses the nation. He calls it a massacre. He calls it an act of barbarism. He calls it consistent with Soviet disregard for human life. In Moscow, Soviet leadership concludes that the United States is using the KAL-007 incident as a pretext. Pretext for what? They are not entirely sure. But the KGB's classified assessment, distributed to senior Soviet military commanders in September 1983, states the following in plain language. The probability of a United States first nuclear strike in the current political climate is higher than at any point since 1962. This is the atmosphere inside the Soviet military establishment on the night of September 25th into September 26th, 1983. Hair trigger readiness, maximum suspicion, a chain of command trained, conditioned, and politically pressured to treat any warning as real and act on it immediately. And sitting at the center of that system, the one man whose console will receive the first alert is Stanislav Petrov. He begins his duty shift at Serpukhov 15 at midnight. 12 minutes later, his world changes. The alert comes at 12:14 a.m. Moscow time, September 26, 1983. A single loud alarm. The main display board at Petrov's console lights up. One word, in Russian, launch. The Oko satellite has detected an infrared signature consistent with the launch of a Minuteman III intercontinental ballistic missile from Malmstrom Air Force Base in Montana. Petrov stares at the screen. His training is explicit. Report this immediately to the duty general. The duty general reports to the Chief of the General Staff. The Chief of the General Staff reports to the Minister of Defense. The Minister of Defense reports to General Secretary Yuri Andropov, and Andropov authorizes the retaliatory launch. The entire chain, from Petrov's phone call to Soviet missiles leaving their silos, is designed to take less than 4 minutes. Petrov does not pick up the phone. Not yet. He looks at the screen. He looks at the data coming in from the satellite. And some combination of training, experience, and technical instinct makes him hesitate. Something is wrong. He cannot immediately identify what. But something is wrong. He has 23 minutes before the reported missile impacts Soviet territory. He starts thinking, fast. First thought, a real American first strike would not consist of one missile. The United States has over 1,000 Minuteman ICBMs in active deployment in September 1983, a genuine first strike, designed to destroy Soviet retaliatory capability before it can be launched, would require hundreds of missiles fired simultaneously. A single missile makes no strategic sense. One missile cannot destroy enough Soviet assets to prevent retaliation. One missile is not a first strike. One missile is, possibly, an error. But before Petrov can act on that reasoning, The console screams again. Second alert. Another Minuteman III, confirmed launch. Same origin, Malmstrom Air Force Base, Montana. The confidence level on the display, highest. The OCO system is not uncertain, it is certain. Then, a third alert, then a fifth. 5 American nuclear missiles, all confirmed, all launched, all inbound. The system confidence indicator reads, reliable. Not possible error, not low confidence, reliable. Petrov's bunker erupts. 50 personnel at consoles throughout the facility, all of them looking at the same data, all of them looking at Petrov. He is the senior duty officer. The decision, report or don't report, is his, and the clock is running. If the missiles are real, Soviet retaliation must launch within the next few minutes to have any chance of surviving the American strike. Every second Petrov hesitates is a second of Soviet retaliatory capability potentially destroyed on the ground. The pressure in that room is unlike anything a human being should have to experience. Petrov runs his analysis in real time, out loud, to his staff, in the middle of the chaos. Point 1. A genuine American first strike involves hundreds of missiles, not 5. 5 missiles cannot achieve first strike objectives. The targeting math does not work. Point 2. The OCO satellite system has known technical vulnerabilities. Specifically, under certain geometric conditions, Soviet satellites in high elliptical orbit can misidentify sunlight reflected off high-altitude cloud formations as missile launch signatures. This is a documented flaw. It has triggered false readings before. Never 5 simultaneous false readings, but it has happened. Point 3. Ground-based Soviet radar, the second tier of the early warning system, has not confirmed the launches. The OCO satellites are screaming. The ground radar is silent. In a genuine launch scenario, ground radar confirmation typically follows satellite detection within minutes. The ground radar is showing nothing. This is the crack in the certainty. The satellite system says 5 missiles, real, confirmed, reliable. The ground radar says nothing. 2 systems, same sky. Contradictory answers. Petrov knows this gap. He has studied it. He has written about it in technical assessments. The OCO system, for all its sophistication, was designed and built under pressure, on budget constraints, in a command economy where engineers who reported problems risked their careers. Flaws existed. Flaws were documented. Flaws were sometimes quietly buried. And right now, one of those flaws might be the difference between a false alarm and the end of the world. He has a phone in each hand. One connects to the duty general, one connects to his technical staff. He is talking into both simultaneously, shouting over the alarms. The room is noise and red light and the sound of 50 people waiting for him to speak the words that will set the most destructive military machine in human history into motion. His hands are shaking. He will admit this later. His hands are shaking, and he is 44 years old, and he has never trained for exactly this moment, because nobody believed this moment would actually arrive. And he makes his decision. Petrov picks up the phone to the duty general. He takes a breath, and he says, "False alarm." 3 words. In a system built on absolute protocols, chain of command, and political pressure to treat every warning as real, he says, "False alarm." He logs it in the duty register as a system malfunction. He reports to his superiors that the OCO satellite alert is a false positive. He gives his reasoning. The strategic logic, 1 missile, then 5, does not match American first strike doctrine. The technical discrepancy, satellite confirmation without ground radar confirmation. The known vulnerability of the OCO system to solar reflectance false positives. He stakes his career, his freedom, and potentially his life on the proposition that the most sophisticated early warning system the Soviet Union has ever built is wrong. The minutes that follow are the longest of Petrov's life. He is not certain. He will say this repeatedly in later interviews. He is not certain. He is making a judgment call under conditions of radical uncertainty, with the clock running and an entire bunker watching him. 50%, he will later say. He was 50% sure it was a false alarm. Those are not good odds. Those are not the odds you want when the alternative is nuclear war. But he holds the call. No report goes up the chain to the duty general's superior. No alert reaches the chief of the general staff. No phone call is made to the Minister of Defense. No warning lands on Yuri Andropov's desk. 23 minutes after the first alert, the time at which the first reported missile should have impacted Soviet territory, nothing happens. No explosion. No impact. No secondary confirmations. Silence. Ground-based radar, which would have detected incoming warheads in their terminal descent phase, shows nothing. The sky is clear. There are no missiles. There were never any missiles. The OCO satellite system, specifically Satellite Cosmos 138-2, the unit that generated the alerts, had done exactly what Petrov suspected. It had misidentified sunlight reflected off high-altitude clouds above North Dakota as the exhaust plume of a Minuteman III launch. 5 times, at highest confidence, marked as reliable. The most expensive, most sophisticated early warning system in Soviet history had looked at a cloud and seen a nuclear missile 5 times and reported it as fact. Had Petrov reported the alert as genuine, the chain of events is not theoretical. It is documented. Soviet nuclear launch protocols in 1983 required retaliatory authorization within 4 to 8 minutes of confirmed early warning alert reaching the general staff. The Soviet Union maintained approximately 35,804 nuclear warheads in its active arsenal in 1983. Of those, an estimated 11,000 were on high-alert intercontinental ballistic missiles capable of reaching American targets within 25 to 30 minutes of launch. The United States, upon detecting a Soviet launch of that scale, would have launched its own arsenal under the Launch on Warning Doctrine, active since 1979. The United States maintained 23,305 nuclear warheads in its active arsenal in 1983. The exchange, full-scale, both sides, would have delivered an estimated combined yield of somewhere between 5,000 and 10,000 megatons. For context, the bomb that destroyed Hiroshima was 15 kilotons. 1 megaton is 67 Hiroshima bombs. 10,000 megatons is 670,000 Hiroshima bombs. Detonated across the Northern Hemisphere in under an hour. The immediate casualties from blast, heat, and prompt radiation, estimated by the 1983 classified U.S. government study known as the AMBIO study, between 750 million and 1.1 billion dead within the first 72 hours. The subsequent nuclear winter, the atmospheric effect of thousands of fires and billions of tons of debris blocking sunlight, estimated duration, 3 to 5 years, global crop failure, global famine, global temperature drop of between 15 and 25 degrees Celsius. Estimated total deaths within 5 years of the exchange, somewhere between 4 billion and 5 billion people, out of a global population in 1983 of 4.7 billion. The end, not of civilization, of humanity itself. That is what Petrov stopped, with a phone he did not pick up. The investigation begins immediately. Within hours of Petrov's shift ending, Soviet military technical teams are examining the OCO satellite data. Within days, the cause of the false alarm is identified. Satellite Cosmos 1382, positioned in its elliptical orbit at a specific angle relative to the Sun on the night of September 25th to 26th. A rare geometric alignment, the satellite, the Sun, and the cloud formations above Malmstrom Air Force Base in Montana created an infrared signature that the OCO detection algorithm classified as missile exhaust. 5 separate detection events, each one classified by the system as high confidence. All 5, sunlight on clouds. The technical report is classified immediately. Top secret. Distribution restricted. It will not be declassified for over a decade. Petrov's superiors face an uncomfortable reality. His judgment was correct. His reasoning, technical and strategic, had been sound under conditions of extreme pressure and radical uncertainty. By any logical measure, he should receive a commendation. He does not, because commending Petrov means formally acknowledging what happened. Acknowledging what happened means acknowledging that the OKO early warning system, billions of rubles, years of development, the cornerstone of Soviet nuclear deterrence, had generated a catastrophically false alert, that the entire Soviet retaliatory apparatus had been one phone call away from launching a nuclear war against a country that had not fired a single missile. That one mid-level duty officer's personal judgment had been the only thing standing between the Soviet Union and the most catastrophic strategic blunder in human history. You cannot put a medal on that story, because the story itself is an institutional catastrophe. Instead, Petrov is quietly reprimanded, not for making the wrong call, for an administrative violation. His duty log from the night of September 26th is improperly filled out. In the chaos of the incident, the alarms, the shouting, the dual phones, the 50 people watching him, Petrov had not completed his written log entries to the standard required by procedure. That is the official finding, an incomplete duty log. He is neither punished severely nor rewarded. He is managed, transferred to a less sensitive posting, eased toward early retirement. And the file on what happened at Serpukhov 15 on September 26, 1983 is sealed. For 12 years, nothing. Petrov retires from the Soviet military in 1984, 1 year after the incident. He lives quietly. He does not speak about what happened, not because he has been explicitly ordered not to, but because in the Soviet Union of 1984, you do not discuss classified incidents involving nuclear early warning systems. You do not discuss the institutional failures of the Soviet military. You do not discuss the night the system nearly ended the world. You keep your head down, you collect your pension, you stay quiet. The Cold War ends December 25, 1991. Mikhail Gorbachev resigns as president of the Soviet Union. The USSR ceases to exist. The files begin to open. Slowly, selectively, incompletely, but they open. And in 1992, a former Soviet general named Yuri Votintsev, the former commander of Soviet Missile Defense Forces, publishes his memoirs. In those memoirs, he describes an incident at Serpukhov 15 in September 1983. He describes a duty officer who held his nerve. He does not name the officer, but the description is specific enough. The incident is specific enough. Western researchers begin looking. The name Stanislav Petrov surfaces publicly for the first time in 1998. A researcher at the Hoover Institution at Stanford University, working through recently declassified Soviet military documents, pieces together the full picture. The story reaches the Western press. Petrov is located. He is living in a small flat in Fryazovo, a town outside Moscow. He is 60 years old. He has a pension equivalent to approximately $200 per month. He is not famous. He is not recognized. He is barely comfortable. And when journalists arrive at his door, he is genuinely surprised that anyone knows his name. The recognition, when it finally comes, is almost entirely from outside Russia. In 1998, the Association of World Citizens awards Petrov their World Citizen Award in San Francisco. It is the first formal recognition he has received for the events of September 26, 1983. 15 years after the fact. In 2004, he travels to the United States for the first time. He is received at the United Nations headquarters in New York. He is presented with a special award by a global disarmament organization. He is photographed, interviewed, applauded. He looks, by all accounts, deeply uncomfortable with the attention. In interview after interview, he deflects the word hero. He repeats the same thing. He was doing his job. He was in the right place with the right training at the right moment. Anyone else in his position, he says, would have done the same. He is almost certainly wrong about that. In 2006, the German documentary filmmaker Peter Anthony begins work on a film about Petrov. The resulting documentary, The Man Who Saved the World, premieres in 2014. At the premiere in New York, Petrov is in attendance. Kevin Costner presents him with a special award on stage. Petrov accepts it with the same quiet bewilderment he has brought to every public moment since 1998. He gives a short speech. He thanks the audience. He says again that he was simply doing his job. In 2013, Petrov receives the Dresden Peace Prize, 10,000 euros. He donates a significant portion of it to medical charities. In 2017, he is awarded the Future of Life Award by the Future of Life Institute in Cambridge, Massachusetts. The citation reads, "For averting a potential nuclear war on September 26, 1983, through a decision made under conditions of radical uncertainty with civilization-ending consequences on both sides of a wrong answer." It is the most accurate description of what he did that has ever been written. Stanislav Petrov dies on May 19, 2017. He is 77 years old. He dies in his flat in Fryazovo, quietly, without ceremony. His death is not announced publicly for several months. It is discovered by a German journalist who telephones to wish him a happy birthday and is told by Petrov's son that his father has been dead since May. The world finds out in September 2017, 34 years and 1 day after the incident that defines his place in history. Here is what the official Soviet record of September 26, 1983 shows. An incomplete duty log, an administrative procedural violation, a technical malfunction in the OCO early warning system subsequently repaired. Nothing else. No commendation, no reprimand beyond the log violation, no formal acknowledgement of what Petrov did or what it prevented. The Soviet military's institutional response to the night one man stopped nuclear war was a paperwork note. That is the complete official record, and it tells you everything you need to know about how governments treat the people who save them from themselves. Here is what the numbers tell you. On September 26, 1983, the Soviet OCO early warning system reported 5 confirmed American nuclear missile launches at highest confidence. The system was wrong. The system was wrong because of a geometric alignment between a satellite, the sun, and a cloud formation over Montana. A cloud. The most expensive and sophisticated early warning network in Soviet history licked at a cloud and told the people responsible for authorizing nuclear war, "This is real. This is reliable. Act now." The only reason they did not act is that a 44-year-old lieutenant colonel decided his own judgment was more reliable than his own government's technology. He was right. By 50%, his own estimate. A coin flip. Every nuclear early warning system in the world makes assumptions. It assumes that technology is more reliable than human judgment. It assumes that speed is more important than certainty. It assumes that the cost of hesitation, missiles arriving unannounced, is higher than the cost of false action. Petrov understood something that the system did not. That in nuclear warfare, false action is not a recoverable error. You cannot apologize for a retaliatory strike. You cannot de-escalate from 4 billion dead. The only correct response to radical uncertainty is to demand certainty before you act. even if the protocol says otherwise, even if the clock is running, even if every person in the room is watching you, even if your hands are shaking. The Soviet government gave Stanislav Petrov an incomplete duty log citation and an early retirement. The world gave him, eventually, a small collection of awards he accepted with visible discomfort. And history gives him this. He is the only individual in recorded history who can be said, with documented certainty, to have prevented a nuclear war. Not through strategy, not through diplomacy, not through military power. Through doubt. Specifically, through the willingness to trust his own doubt over the certainty of a machine. In a world that is increasingly governed by systems that tell us they are reliable, that lesson has not aged a single day. What other declassified stories should we cover next? Drop your suggestions below. There are files that have been waiting decades to be opened. We are just getting started. We will see you in the next classified file.